I recently received an email from a YouTuber by the name of Sam Maxwell, who's been going through a bit of a struggle throughout his life, and he asked me to discuss the topic of rejection. He writes, "Could you please discuss rejection and how being outcasted from the in crowd can affect someone psychologically, or even how it affects their decision making later in life? It's something I've faced since I was very young in elementary school, and it became worse as I grew up. The rejection I'm talking about is not just the rejection from girls, which happens to be a common theme in my life as well, but that is a topic within itself. But rejection from everyone, or as most would say, society. Alright, when a child is rejected, it automatically thinks there's something wrong with it, and it starts to take it out on themselves because it's just learning the world. A healthy child that comes from a healthy home will have developed the proper mental foundation for the kid, for if ever they encounter rejection in life, they'll be fully secure in the fact that although this group didn't necessarily need another member, another group will, and it will accept them for who they are. Any incongruency between them and a group or anything, they will completely maintain that issue externally, outside of themselves, detached from their self-worth. Alright? The pain brought on by this rejection is only great for those who seek validation and derive their self-worth from others. They do not feel good about themselves without consistent reaffirmation from external sources, and the reason for this is that they do not feel accepted at home. For they are often criticized or maybe even scapegoated, forcing them to hold back their instincts. They have to run their existence through a filter at home, and when they get to be themselves in the real world, any rejection is far more piercing and will compound over time, because whenever they're truly themselves, they get stifled. They've gotten a negative message. The problem with this is that the child starts to believe this false message they've received from both within and outside of the household. And since they're not getting some positive affirmation from somewhere, they start to sink into deeper negative thinking patterns. And the hardest concept to digest is the fact that what you think is what is. This isn't hippie bullshit. Your thoughts condition your reality. You cannot surround yourself with people that reinforce that negative belief in yourself. If you can't cut them out, you have to limit your time with them. A healthy person who's rejected or treated rudely will simply say this wasn't a good fit, or what's wrong with this person to be so rude to me. An unhealthy person will put a whole blame on themselves. The bottom line is you have to get to a point of indifference to where you can truly only care about what you think and how you see yourself. Alright? Now, Maxwell continues and he writes, "It was full-on bashing when I was in elementary school, but as I grew older, my peers would be more subtle with it. A good example of the subtle rejection that I faced is one time in high school when I approached a group that was considered to be the outcasts, or basically the group in the anime and manga. Back then I was allowed in, but whenever I attempted to speak or say anything, I would be interrupted constantly or just completely ignored. Alright, this is an example of your thoughts conditioning your behavior. Alright, example. If a bully sees a nerd and he wants to pick on him, he can't explain what it is about the nerd that drew him to him. It's just something about the nerd that the nerd is projecting. And what that is weakness. It's a lack of assertiveness. In your case, even though it may not have been conscious, they probably picked up on some neediness and slowly tested you to see how far you would let them disrespect you. And the hard truth is, no one wants to be friends with a needy person. That's just life. And even more, this example shows a lack of proper boundaries. If you did not address this behavior to them assertively, you're passively telling them it's okay to treat you like that. And it's not. Healthy people cut and run when they're treated poorly. The fact that you kept going back to this group that didn't treat you right showed them how much you value yourself, and they valued you accordingly. Alright? He continues to write, "There were a couple of times where I had some people's attention, but in the middle of the conversation, they were doing something else and not paying attention, or just straight up walked off. This is a clear-cut example of disrespect, and they were just using you as a soundboard to hear their thoughts. Any relationship that's one way is not a relationship. There has to be some reciprocity. Alright? You were around dicks, but you couldn't see this because of the poor way you see yourself. A healthy person would have been like, fuck this guy, I'm getting out of here. But you chose to stay out of this fear of loneliness, out of this neediness that you have to break free from, or at least back then. He then writes, over time I realized I wasn't really clicking with the group, so I just went out on my own and didn't hang around them for a couple months. The thing that really hurt was that no one really asked where I went or what happened to me. No one cared, and thus you have the subtle rejection. It looks at first as you have been accepted somewhere for who you are, but it was a lie. The truth is you were never really accepted because they didn't respect you. You said you avoided them for a couple of months because it wasn't clicking, but this implies you went back after. There's no reason to ever go back to someone who doesn't treat you right, no matter how lonely you are. You have to put yourself above all and never associate with anyone who doesn't treat you like you deserve to be treated. Like I said, your thoughts become your actions, and it's exhibited here. Alright? They didn't come after you because they didn't care about you, but you were so needy, and because they spoke to you, you made the relationship out to be something more than it was. Alright? And you're just taking this obvious scenario and blowing it up and applying it to the other issue that's been in your life. Alright? A healthy person would just be like, alright, they didn't want me, fuck them, I don't want them. But you were like, they don't want me, and then you dwell on the topic rather than just cutting and running and being like, another group will come by. Alright? He continues, another example was I used to hang out with a group of 9 people in the first few years of college. We would all crack jokes at each other, but it was all good fun, so I didn't give it much thought. One day the jokes directed at me from the group were a little more harsh than usual, but I didn't think too much of it. I guess it's a byproduct of being viewed as weak. It's like having a sign saying pick on me. As the days progressed, I noticed they started ragging on me more and more and less on each other until I finally was the only person they were cracking jokes on. Also, the jokes started progressively getting more and more harsh. It took me a couple months of getting the butt end of the jokes and being left out of the invites to events to get the hint. I was no longer wanted in that particular group and thus faced rejection once again, subtly. I'll say it again. You are your thoughts. Somewhere in the interaction with that group, you showed them how much of a rise they can get out of you. And with each joke and insult, it became less and less veiled because they learned there are no repercussions to their behavior. Inadvertently, you let yourself become a punching bag for them because you didn't act assertively. Neediness is not an attractive quality because it shows low value. Humans pick up on this innately and will want to be around this less and less. You can't be around anyone until you are completely content in being alone and being by yourself. In being yourself. Alright? Healthy people would have been like, fuck these guys. I'm not spending any time with them. I'm out of here. Alright? Because they don't respect you. Why would you want to be around someone who doesn't respect you? So you can't be alone? You gotta be with you. You have to be completely content in you. And that's what a healthy person does. But the way you see the world is like, I have to be being around people that don't treat me right is a lot better than me being alone. That's not good. All right? The paradigm of your mind is rooted in your home. Did you feel like your parents didn't respect you growing up or even now? Did they love their kid without knowing who he really is? There's a good chance that the issue is somewhere rooted in a need for acceptance, but you cannot hope for others to accept you. You have to develop an indifference to others' opinions of you and make an effort to develop healthy boundaries and accept yourself. Again, your thoughts become your reality. I can't stress that enough. You have to make small changes in your life to improve your situation and your own impression of yourself, and learn to ride worth in setting goals. Try something you've always wanted to do and get the fuck out of your comfort zone. All right? And do not associate with people that treat you like this. I'm not a psychologist, therapist, psychiatrist. This is strictly for entertainment, but maybe seeking one out might be beneficial to you. So with that, I wish you good luck. And whenever you feel like someone's pushing your buttons or disrespecting you, ask yourself, when have you felt like this before? And walk the fuck on. Trust that feeling in your gut because you have it for a reason.